Ever thought about how a single date on the calendar, any old date, could be a key that unlocks this whole universe of hidden stories? Especially for something that feels so, abstract and impersonal like math. Well, today we're going to see just how human math really is. And we're going to do it by focusing on just one day, February 5th. So what on earth could possibly link these four people? I mean, you've got a celebrated writer, a career military guy, a man who spent his life fleeing one totalitarian regime after another, and a woman who absolutely shattered the glass ceiling in American academia. The answer is, well, it's definitely not what you'd expect. Yep, it all comes down to this one date. February 5th is the thread that ties all of their incredible stories together, and it gives us this amazing snapshot of the human side of math history. Okay, so here's the game plan. We'll start with the shared date itself. Then we'll meet a couple of pretty unlikely mathematicians. After that, we'll see how others built entire communities against all odds, and how math survives and even thrives in times of serious turmoil. Then we'll connect these lives to their lasting legacies, and finally piece together what we're calling the human equation. So how can one day act like a window into all of this? Well, we're going to look at the birthdays and the death days of several remarkable people, all tied to February 5th. And by doing that, we're going to uncover a much richer, much more human story of mathematics than you'd find in any textbook. And wow, the people we're about to meet, they cover a huge range. Their lives take us all the way from the late 1700s to the 21st century. We're talking revolutions, world wars, the dawn of the computer age, everything. They come from France, Scotland, Sweden, Germany, the US, each with a totally unique story that just happens to be anchored to this one day. First up, let's kick things off with two people who, on the surface, could not be more different. One of them found his way to mathematics late in life, after a full career in the army, while the other actually started in math but walked away from it for the world of literature. This really lays out the two different paths perfectly. On the left, you've got Henri Delannoy. I mean, this guy fought for Napoleon III and served in Africa before he ever even thought about publishing a math paper. He only got into it in his late 40s. Then on the right, there's Thomas Carlyle, the famous Scottish writer. He actually started out as a math teacher and even translated a famous French geometry book into English. But Carlyle, well, he started getting second thoughts. He wrote this to a friend back in 1817, saying he felt math was more about clever tricks than real deep knowledge. He called it a sleight of hand. And eventually he just walked away, turning to history and philosophy instead. Delannoy, on the other hand, just dove right in, making a name for himself in probability. Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about the people who weren't just solving problems on paper. These are the ones who built institutions, who created communities for others, a lot of times while facing some truly incredible obstacles. Just listen to this. This is what a university dean actually said to Dorothy Bernstein when she was looking for a job in the 1930s. He literally pulled out a map, crossed off huge chunks of the country, and told her those places were off limits to her simply because she was a Jewish woman. Just unbelievable. But did she let that stop her? No way. She didn't just have a fantastic research career, she became a leader. In 1978, she was elected the first ever female president of the Mathematical Association of America. What a monumental achievement. A true pioneer who passed away on this day in 1988. And he wasn't the only one building something to last. Benjamin Finkel, who also died on this day, looked around in the 1890s and saw that all the math journals were, super academic, written for the big shot professors. He wanted to create something for the average person who loved math, especially teachers in small towns and high schools. So he founded the American Mathematical Monthly, a journal that is still a huge deal in the math world today. Of course, mathematicians don't live in a bubble. And as we're about to see, their lives and their work are often shaped in profound ways by the chaos and the political turmoil swirling around them. I mean, just look at the unbelievable life of Werner Romberg, who died on February 5th, 2003. As a fierce opponent of the Nazis, he had to flee Germany in 1933. He went to the Soviet Union, only to get forced out during Stalin's purges. He then escaped Prague just before Hitler invaded, and then had to flee Norway right after the Germans invaded there too. His life was just this constant escape from tyranny. And he wasn't alone in this. The physicist Oscar Klein, who also died on this day, didn't just serve in World War I. In the 30s and 40s, he was actively working to help other scientists escape Nazi persecution. He's most famous for helping his mentor, the legendary Niels Bohr, escape from occupied Denmark. So you have all these incredible dramatic lives. How did that translate into the ideas that we still use and talk about today? Because somehow, in the middle of all that chaos, these people created some truly brilliant and lasting work. So Werner Romberg, the guy who was always on the run, he developed this powerful method for finding really good approximate answers to complex problems. It's known as Romberg integration. It's basically a super clever way to get more accurate results faster. It's kind of poetic, right? A guy whose life was total upheaval creates a method for mathematical order and precision. And Oscar Klein, the physicist who helped refugees, was an absolute giant in his field. He helped come up with this really mind-bending idea called Kaluza-Klein theory. It was one of the very first theories to try and unite the forces of nature by suggesting, get this, that our universe has a tiny curled-up fifth dimension that's just too small for us to see. This radical idea is basically the granddaddy of modern string theory. Lee Segel, who was born on this day, took math into the world of biology. He co-developed what are now called the Keller-Segel models. They're a set of equations that describe how biological cells move around and organize themselves. You can think of it like the math that explains how a slime mold swarms together. It's a beautiful example of math revealing the hidden patterns in life itself. And finally, let's circle back to our soldier mathematician, Henri Delannoy. Maybe it was that military mind, always thinking about logistics and paths, but his work on counting the number of ways you can get from one corner of a grid to another led to the creation of Delannoy numbers, which are a really key concept in the field of combinatorics. So, after all that, after journeying through these totally different lives that are all connected by just one day on the calendar, what's the big takeaway here? What does it all add up to? The bottom line is this. Behind every elegant equation, every theorem, there's a human story. It's a story of passion, like Carlyle's, of late-blooming curiosity, like Delannoy's, of incredible persistence against prejudice, like Bernstein's, and of sheer survival, like Romberg's. February 5th shows us that math isn't some cold, abstract thing. It's one of the most human things we do. And that leaves us with one last thought. We've just scratched the surface of a single day. Can you imagine the stories that are hiding in every other day of the year? If one date can show us all this, what surprising connections and hidden histories might be waiting to be discovered in today's date?